This conference will now be recorded.
Let's start today's session. In the last session of Python, we were discussed about object-oriented programming, and we started a simple program, how to prepare a class, and how to implement it, and how to access the class functionalities using object. Okay, so today we'll continue that, and in this session, I'm going to discuss what is constructor and what is method, difference between constructor and method. All these details I'll discuss. After that, we'll start with the types of variables in Python object-oriented programming class, because class is a collection of variables and methods. What type of variables generally we can include inside the class, we'll see. Now, this is not your project. Let me open your project. So this is the last program which we have discussed. This is the class name student, and this is actually constructor name, and this is the method name, and here it is object reference variable, or we can call it as object. And in object oriented programming, we have to create object for class, then only using this object we can able to access the functionality of the class only. We are calling this method here display method. So here, when we create object to the class, automatically constructor will execute. Okay, so first let me discuss about constructor. What is constructor? And constructor name is how it is, and when constructor will execute, we'll discuss. So constructor. So what is constructor here? Point number one. Constructor is a special method of class. Constructor is a special method of class. Yes, it is a special method of class. Constructor is a special method of class, or it is one of the method of class. Next, constructor name should be underscore init. Init means initialization of self. Next here, self is the first parameter. Self is the first parameter of constructor. Self is the first parameter of the constructor. After self, we can include any parameters, but make sure that every constructor starts with self parameter, and also every method also starts with self. What is self here? Self is the special variable. It's not a keyword. Self is used to access current class members. Okay, self is used to access current class members. And next, what is constructor purpose action? Generally, constructor is constructor is used to declare and initialize the values to the variables. Initialize the values to the variables. So what purpose we use constructor? Just we can able to declare and initialize the values to the variables. Initialize the values to the variables. Okay, this is the purpose of constructor. But constructor will execute automatically. Yes, it will execute what? Automatically. When we create object to the class. Constructor will execute automatically when we create object to the class. When we create object to the class, actually. Yes. It will execute automatically when we create object to the class. So generally method will execute only when we call that, but constructor will execute automatically when we create object to the class. Once we create object to the class, automatically constructor will execute. This is the constructor specialty. So constructor is used to declare and initialize the values to the variables. Constructor will execute automatically when we create object to the class. And this is constructor is a special method, and it is also one of the method, but constructor name is always underscore underscore init. Init means initialization. Generally in other languages, the name of the constructor should be same as class name only. But in Python, always constructor name is what? This name only here. Okay. Next here, method. What is method? And one more thing, we can create any number of objects to the class. We can create any number of objects to the class. We can create any number of objects to the class. But for every object, for every object, for every object, constructor will execute once. For every object, constructor will execute once. Yes, once constructor will execute. So two objects I created. For the first object, constructor will execute once, and second object, constructor will execute once, third object, like that. Any number of objects we create, and every object purpose constructor will execute once again. Okay. So these are the constructor related points. And coming to the method. What is method? Method and constructor difference is what? So method is a reusable piece of code. Method is reusable piece of code which can be called again and again when it is required. Yes, method is a reusable piece of code which can be called again and again. So when it is required, actually. Okay, whenever it is required, we can call method again and again many number of times. And next, method name can be of any name. Method name can be of any name, sir. Yes, any name of the method you can create, no problem. And self is the first parameter of the method. Yes, self is the first parameter of the method. Yes, method first parameter also self only. Next, method generally we can create with our any business logic code. That means inside the method we can write any business logic code. Inside the method we can write any business logic code. Any business logic code we can write easily. And next, method will execute only when we call that. Method will execute only when we call that method. When we call that. Without calling, method will not execute. And similarly, we can create any number of objects to the class, but for every object, constructor will execute once. Method will execute any number of times. So for every object, we can call a method with any number of times. With any number of times we can call with any number of times. For every object, we can call a method with any number of times. So this is the method and constructor difference. But sir, here in this program, we include a constructor and we include a method. Generally, when we go for constructor means at class level, how many objects are there? For all objects, if you want to maintain common initialization, then in that context, we can go for constructor actually. So common implementation means, so as soon as when we create object to the class, automatically for that object, some data or some variables data is available for this object. At this moment, we can include this inside the constructor. But even though we can include this type of variables into the method also, but method again, by default, it's not available for every object. You have to call the method, then only that variables are available to the methods only. So here S1 object, S is object only, student is a class, S dot display method I'm calling here. So when we create object to the class, constructor will execute. And constructor execution after what will happen, this initialization is takes place. 1, 2, 3, 4 value will be initialized SID, this SAI will be initialized S name, HYD will be initialized S address. But note this point here, in this example, we got this output here. One object I created, one time constructor executed, student ID, student name, student address is coming. Okay. Yes. For example, first next object I'm creating. S1 is my object one. S1 is my object one. Again, S2 is my object. S2 is new object of student class. We can create any number of objects in the class. S1 dot display and then S2 dot display again empty. So coming to this, let's run this. Now you can see student ID, student name, student address. Now student ID, student name, student address. So same data is coming for object reference through and object reference to through. Now you can see S1 and S2, two objects are there. Two times I'm calling method, and for every object constructor will execute, constructor is available, and same data is repeatedly there here. But if you want to display S1 object purpose, different student details, and S2 object through different student details, then we can go for parameterized constructor we have to go. So right now, constructor don't have any parameters, and let me prepare parameterized constructor. To prepare parameterized constructor, here I'm taking SID, SName, SAddress are the parameters, but here SID equals to SID and SName equals to SName and SAddress equals to SAddress like this. Okay, so SID, SName, SAddress. Now look at this point. When we create this constructor is a special method I said, and this method is having what actually parameters. You know very well, parameters are what? Input values to the constructor. When we call constructor, then that constructor is expecting some input values from the user. But when constructor execute, you know that as soon as when we create object to the class, constructor will execute. But at the time of object creation, you can see when we open a bracket, so immediately the constructor is expecting parameters SID, SName, SAddress. Here we have to supply the student ID like 101, student name, SAI, student address, HYD. Got my point? And at the same time, second object time also, we have to pass a second student details when we open the bracket here, and it is asking SID 102, SName, ROM, SAddress, HYD like this. So what will happen in this case? So when we create object to the class, automatically constructor execute. Okay. So this object when we create, then automatically who will execute? Constructor will execute. And immediately 101 will go to SID, this SAI will go to SName, and HYD will go to SAddress. So here SID is what? 101 is there. SName is what? SAI is there in the first object case. SAddress is HYD. This will be assigned to SID here, SName here, SAddress here. These are the actual data variables, and these are the parameters. But here parameters and variables both are same, but not required to same. You can take any parameters, that is your wish. Okay, so this parameters and this your class fields not required to same. But look at here, once I run this, now this time two objects are there. two different set of data we are getting: student ID, student name, student address, again student ID, student name, student address. So this is details here. Okay, so when we create object to the class, these details will go and it will assign to the parameters, and this parameters through we are assigning the data to the variables clearly. Okay, yes. And sir, this variables I'm taking any variables like X is my SID variable, Y is my S name variable, Z is my address variable. So this is parameters, parameter names, and actual data field names or variable names are different. So we have to assign this parameter value XYZ, and I'm taking XYZ here. So what I mean to say finally, this parameter names and the data fields names not compulsory same, so it can be different also. Once I start run, you can see same output we are getting, nothing wrong. Next part is, sir, here self is the first parameter I'm saying, but what happen if I don't take self, sir? If I remove this self, you can see this, what will happen in this case? One of your first parameter became a self now. You can see X value, X variable color is completely changed. Have you noticed that? So Y and Z only your own parameters here. X became a self. So the name SELF is not compulsory. And if you don't include self as the first parameter inside the constructor, by default, one of your parameter is act as a self. So this X is acting as a self. So I'm using X dot SID equals to A. I'm taking X dot SID equals to Y, X dot SID is equal to Z. Because one of the parameter ID purpose A is not there, so I'm taking A. Now this time you can see self SELF. Self is the special variable, and self is the first parameter of inside the constructor, and self including self SCLF name is not compulsory. In place of self, you can take any name. That name will be act as a self only. Just I'm showing, but I will not recommend this, and better to include self only because it is standard name. Okay. In case if you don't give the self and one of your parameter is what actually act as a self only. Now this is perfect. And here also, if I don't take self here, then obviously it will give error. You can see this self. Here also, when we place mouse pointer, method must have a first parameter usually called self. It's clearly saying that in the IntelliSense window, method must have first parameter usually that is called what? Self only it is saying. So self is the mandatory, that is first parameter inside the method, and that is first parameter inside the constructor set. Got my point? So this is constructor including and method is including. But look at here, if I don't include any constructor, as I said that constructor is optional to include. All the time, it's not required to include constructor, sir. Okay. So constructor including is optional, and method including is also optional, but anyone is compulsory. Either you can use constructor or you can use method, sir. So both are if you both don't if your classes don't have both like constructor and methods, we can't do it. So anyone is compulsory. Method is optional, constructor is optional, anyone is compulsory. But in this example, I maintain clearly constructor as well as method, and I'm just calling the method with the help of object reference only. So this is what actually object reference, or objects also we can call it as. This object is an instance of class, or it is used to represent a class. If you want to access any class methods and class variables, class stuff inside what we have implemented, that we can able to access through object reference only, but where? Outside the class. This portion is outside the class and this portion is within the class. So self will work only within the class, sir. Self will not work outside the class. Strictly remember. Anything, if you want to access inside the class, self will work inside the class only. But if you want to access outside the class, then object reference only will work, sir. That you have to remember. Okay. Yes. Let's try to show you another example And in this example, I took constructor and method. Okay. Another example, I will include only constructor. If I don't have any method, then what is happening? I'll tell you clearly. Okay. Let's go for test one and let's copy and paste this same code only. Copy this and paste into here. So now this time we can see I'm not taking any method here. Okay. I'm not taking any method. But one more thing, let's go to this one. So one more thing here, I want to explain, I forgot to tell you. So what will happen when we include this all printing statements inside the constructor only? You can see inside the constructor only. Because as I said, the constructor is also special method. What happen if I include all these statements, output statements inside the constructor only? At this moment, we don't have any method, no? Let it be, keep in the comment section this one. I'm just keeping this into comment section. And methods are not there, so no need to call the methods also. Okay, yes. So we have only constructor, sir, but only constructor only. I declare variables and initialize values through parameters, and also printing statements also I have included inside the constructor. So as soon as when we create object to the class, automatically constructor will execute. Inside the constructor, initialization part is taking place, and after that printing part also taking place, sir. Once I start execution, now you can see student ID is 101, student name is Sai, student address is HYD, student ID 102, student name is Ram, student address is HYD. Got my point? Yes. So what is the problem here? The problem is here, in case I created two objects references, but I don't want to display second student details anymore. I want to display only first student details, second student details I don't want to display, sir. How I can do? So you can't do it now. The reason is you have included print statements directly inside the constructor. So that is not in your hand. So automatically constructor will execute. So you can't stop to print student two details, and you can only print student one details. Not possible. All student details by default will display, because for every object, constructor execute once. So to do this, that is what the problem is actually. Better to arrange this one inside the particular method. So if you have a method for displaying student details, then what will happen? In case if you want to display only student one details, you can call display method for object one reference. You can ignore calling display method of object to reference. At this moment, we can get only student details. Oh, we are getting student two details. The reason is I have not removed this code here. Okay. So when we keep printing statements in the separate method, for which object reference you want to call the method, you can call it. And for which object reference you don't want to call, so you can ignore it simply here. I just avoid student two details. And because I'm not calling student two details, I'm just put into comment section. So once you keep your print statements inside the method, and this method flexibility is there. Whenever you want to call, you can call it. When you want to ignore, you can ignore it here. Simply that. Okay. So this is what which I forgot to discuss. Fine. Next, coming to the next example here, I don't have at all any methods are here. Method is removing, and method scope is not there here. But only I have a constructor. No, you can see this. Only I have a constructor. But for every object, constructor will execute that. Of S1 object, if I create, constructor will execute, and constructor is having parameters x value 101, y value psi, z value HYD here. So in this case, what will happen? You can see nothing is happening because there is no print functions inside the constructor here. But I don't have any method also. In that context, options are there clearly. If we don't have any method to print separately student details, now you can see S1 dot dict underscore underscore dictionary is possible, and print s2 dot underscore underscore dictionary is possible here. Okay, dictionary. So S1 and S2 two student details to student details, and S1 is having some reference, this reference data. S2 is having some reference, this reference data, and we don't have any separate method to display the student details here. So that's what I'm using object reference dot dictionary, object reference dot dictionary. We don't have any method in this program, but still we can able to display the student two details in the form of dictionary format, where SID, SName, SAddress are key, 101 Sai HYD will be act as a values. So dictionary can be created in Python, curly brackets, where this is key value pair elements only clear. This is what one of the technique. If you don't have any method to display or to represent student details or employee details, then we can use this technique, object reference and dictionary special method we can use. Okay, and this is one of the option is there, and other option is there. For example, let's go to another program, test2.py. Sir, in this program I don't want to include any constructor. So first program, constructor is there, method is there. Second program, only constructor is there, method is not there. Third program, what I want to do, only methods are required, constructor is not required, sir. At this moment, what will happen? You can see, I'm not going to take any constructor. Okay, I'm just not taking any parameters also. Now you can see, and I'm going to take only one method, one more method. Both are methods only. Get data is a method. This method through I need to accept the values, student values at runtime. So here self dot SID equals to, I'm asking int of input of enter student ID, student ID. Next self dot SName equals to input of enter SName, student name, student name. Self dot SAddress equals to input of enter SAddress I'm taking. SAddress means student address. So both are methods. Just observe here. Get data is a method, display is a method. There is no constructor is involving in this program. As I said that including constructor is optional, including method is optional. But here only two methods are there. There is no constructor. This is the method, this is the method. But method will execute when I said only when we call. But did I call this get data method? No. So we have to call s1 dot get data and s1 dot display. Okay, again s2 dot get data, object2 also I want to call the method s2 dot display. So methods I'm calling for all objects. Two methods are there. Get data method through I'm accepting values, student values, and display method through I'm printing student values. Let's hit this run button. SID 1234, I'm entering runtime values. Sai Hyderabad is the address, and SID 3435, and name is Sai, name is R, whatever it is, Ramad. Okay, Hyderabad address is SR now. So two student details I'm accepting at runtime, and that two student details are displaying here clear. Got my point? So this is what exactly without including any constructor, and this is which only constructor but without including any method, and this is constructor as well as method. But constructor when it is required, which is commonly assigned the values, variable values to all of your objects, then we can go for assignment commonly for all objects, because constructor will execute as soon as when we create object, but which is not common for all object. Object to object difference reference if you want, then go for methods. Which method, which object you want to call this method, you can call it, otherwise you can ignore it. And if you don't have any method in your program, no problem. Without method, we can print our object reference data through dictionaries like this only. So first program, only constructor and methods. Second program, without methods, only constructor. Third program, only methods are there. There is no constructors are available here. Got my point? Yes. And one more important thing I want to tell you. So display method is there, no? In this display, every time I'm taking for every detail like the student ID, student name, student address, like this I'm using here. Okay, like this I'm using. But there is one more option also there, how the way you are going to print. Different style of printing options are there. What is the options? I'll tell you. Suppose enter SID, S name, S address, again SID, S name, S address, like this. We are getting these details clearly. But sir, apart from this one, let me show you a different details printing. So apart from this one I'm not going to use at this moment. So next you can see only one single line I'm using. Now you can see self dot SID, comma, self dot S name, comma, self dot S address I'm taking. So within single line only, I'm able to print all the student details. Now look at here, SID 123, S name Sai, S address HYD, SID 234, S name Ram, S address, S Nagar, like this. So we got this one line elements. But even though if you want to skip the next line, so what we need to do here, you can see slash n I'm going to use, that is sorry, I have to include slash n here, comma, copy this and paste it here, comma, like this. Let's run this. I'm including slash n, that is new line 123 SAI HYD, again 234, like this. So we are getting this details 123 Sai HYD and 234 Sai HYD RAM HYD, like line by line we are getting the details. So this is one option. But another option is there. This is somewhat different. You can see this. I'm trying to do placeholder format here. Placeholder format is what actually first student ID, no? Yes, student ID, student name, student address. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here, I'm taking, this is the placeholder, comma, okay, ID is, this is the placeholder, ID is, and here I'm taking one more placeholder here. Just give me 1 second. Placeholder, and I'm giving apostrophe s, ID is, some space, I'm taking here placeholder again, and address is, I'm giving placeholder here, dot format function I'm taking, self dot, first what I'm passing actually names, s name, self dot s name, student name, yes, comma, self dot s name. Next option I'm taking here, you can see self dot self dot SID, finally self dot S address I'm taking, sir. So how it is? The index is important. S name is what actually, what order you are passing, that order you can pass here. S name will go to first order here. Okay. SID is what actually here. S address here. Let me check this once so that you'll understand. So let me give my input values. Student ID 123, student name is Sai, student address HYD, student ID 345, student name is Raj, student address is again HYD. So now you can see Sai's ID is 123 and address is what, HYD. Got my point? How it look like? So whatever you are going to give the first here, okay. So whatever you are going to give this first here format function, S name directly first placeholder it will represent, because order is this one only. SID second placeholder it will be reflect. S address third placeholder it will reflect. The meaning is this is string formatting. So that's what I'm using dot format function. So by default here S name in the sense directly it will go here in this field. Sai I entered. Sai's ID is next SID 123 will go, and address is next HYD, like this. This is format also we can able to display. And one more format is there. Let me keep this comment section. And now you can see, let me copy this one and place into in the next line only, sir. I'm placing into next line, sir. Just observe here, paste it here again, once again. So this time what I'm going to use, you can see this will work or not, I'm not sure, but I'm trying to do it here. Index basis I want to try to print, okay. Index basis means at this time, format function is not required here. So comma I'm using, you can see comma I'm using, self dot, here S name is what actually, where we have passed zero index. So obviously zero index you have to pass. Okay. S name is, SID is what actually, one index we have passed, one. S address is what index, third index I'm passing. Let's hit this run. Same thing is happening or not, you can see. SID 123, S name Sai, S address HYD, SID 345, S name is Durga, S address HYD. Now you can see zeros, ID is ones, ID is like this. Directly values not coming. The reason is again the mistake is format I miss actually. Compulsory that format also required. Okay, I expected. Yeah. Now you can see here dot format I'm using of cell phone. This is workouts. Even though if you give indexes, it will work out. Got my point? So this one with placeholder with indexes also you can use. This will work now, sir. Format is compulsory. 123 Sai HYD 34234 Durga HYD. So we got, oh, let me give that. What is happening here? Just address as name. Replacement index 3 out of range positional arguments like this. Index 3 not there. It's my mistake undoubtedly. 2 is there. Okay. How many times I will like the mistake? Now this time you can see same output we are getting. Size ID is 123 and address is HY. Durga's ID is 345 and address is HY. So that means either you can give the indexes or you can give this format one. If you go through this one, by default, what will happen, in this case, S name means obviously it will go to first place. SID means obviously it will go to second place. S address means obviously it will go to third place. But here, not like that. So any order you can format. For example, here I'm taking self.sid first. Okay. Self.saddress last, middle. Self.sid. Okay. Last only I'm taking. But here, SID, S name last I'm taking. S name. Okay. But this index is what? Zero index. Where you want to place this zero index, you can decide. Zero index I want to place here, sir. This index is what? One index. One index where you want to place? Here I want to place one index, sir. S name is what here? Student name. Student name where you have to place? This is third index, sir. So 301. Order, you can maintain any order, but while passing indexes, you can able to pass the index values correct position. But if you maintain any order, this will be wrong because S name here last means directly here address place S name will forward like this one. So the index position is what order you maintain here, no matter, but only the order position you can match with this statement. So I'm giving second index, sir. It's my mistake again. Second index 012. Second index is what? Address. Zero index, one index, two index. Second index is what? Name. Name in the sense here it has to go name. And zero index means what? ID. So person name and ID it has to go here. Address means first, second, one index. Address is one index. So this time it will work fine. So this is the representation of statements. Student ID, student name, student address, student ID, student name, student address, like this. So same output we are getting. Size ID is 123 and address is HYD. If you change the indexes, result will be changed again. Suppose here I'm taking zero index, okay? Result obviously will change, sir. That is not correct. Hope you understand that. Because zero index means what? SID first it will come, okay? One index means what? S address it will come here. S name is two index, last index it will come. But our values will be changed, but that is not proper output. Even though if you give values like this, the result will be completely different, sir, here. Now you can see 123 ID is HYD and address is Sai. What is this? This is not correct, no, because index position is wrong. So that's what I recommend is the proper indexing you have to use. That is 2011. 2 means name, 0 means ID, 1 means address. So this format you can print, or else directly normal print function through also we can print this. So this is overall complete basic idea of object-oriented programming, structure, and difference between constructor and method, and about self, and about object reference. What are the possible ways to access your method and constructor? We were discussing this session clear. In the next session, we'll continue from here. Types of variables and types of methods I'll include in next session onwards. That is Monday session we'll discuss. On Monday again we'll meet on same link only. This link will work next weekend also. Continuously can use this link only. Okay.